Did PCGS drop the ball on this and misidentify this as a drop star averse? And did I jump the gun on releasing a video saying that it was a new discovery min error? Well, that image is from the Coin Community Forum, and I use it as educational purposes, just showed part of it. But I want to talk about this for a minute because I did jump the gun on putting out a video on it without examining it closely. It's still inconclusive to me. I want to say that right off the top. But I have nothing to prove, not trying to prove anyone wrong or right or anything like that. But every one of us needs to demand accuracy and consistency from PCGS or NGC or any of the grading companies. And when we don't see it, then it needs to be pointed out and it needs to be fixed. I have documented examples myself of PCGS errors. I have one right behind me on the table that I have not sent back yet. They misattributed it. It's a completely different coin than what it was attributed as. And I did a video on the coin. Another one that I did a video on, and I took my video down because I realized something was wrong with this coin, and I sent an image to Mike Diamond. Now, Mike Diamond is the guy. He's one of the guys that you would send stuff to have him examine. Now, it doesn't mean we're not flawless. We're not flawless people, don't make mistakes. We're all looking at images here, and images are very difficult to determine things. But let's take a look at a mistake that PCGS made, that I actually held in my hand, was able to take pictures of it, and I found this when I was looking at this in hand. This is what I'm talking about. The 2024 Drop Star Kennedy half dollar, we're looking at images only. Coins need to be looked at in hand, and this is what happened whenever I started looking at this thing in hand. What PCGS labeled this was a 1983 struck on a substandard planchet, which that means a reject probably, substandard, not to their standard. But what it says is pre-1983 1 cent planchet, 2.92 grams. So now, some pre-83 planchets were copper-plated zinc planchets. Some were not. But this gives the impression, being 2.92 grams, that this is a copper planchet, and that's what the owner thought when he sent this off and got it back. When I was looking at the coin, I noticed something over the T, like split plating. So this is the result of the test, and it's showing the copper at the first test. Looks like they did several tests. I'm not sure what areas, saying that it's 70% copper. You can see it's showing mostly copper and a little bit of zinc. So it makes it look like this coin is a copper planchet, substandard, underweight. But I sent these pictures to Mike Diamond, and he agreed that this looks like split plating, and this is probably just an extra thick plating. And the XRF didn't test in this area, just tested certain areas. And it came up as mostly copper because it didn't penetrate far enough. Now, like I said, I am not an XRF expert. I do know how it works, but I don't have enough experience with them to be able to say one way or another. But I yielded to him and told the owner of this coin, and that person was very angry with me, very upset. But the thing is, that's not the way to approach this. I was glad to handle this coin and send it off. I didn't want to make an offer on it. I didn't want anything to do with it. And when I found out, or when I discovered that split plating on it, it's just too much of an unknown for me. I am by far not the most world's renowned expert on mint errors or anything else for that matter. So I said all that to say that I do know 100% fact that PCGS makes some booger of mistakes. I mean, they make some boogers really bad. So I just wanted to lay that out, set the groundwork here, because I would love to see this coin in hand at this point. Not because of ego or pride or anything like that, but because I put a video out on it, thought it looked close enough to be, thought it looked good enough to be a drop star, and then find out that Mike Diamond has, and some people from Kaneka have mentioned that it looks more like a contact mark to them. So I'm looking at it, and we're going to take a closer look here. This is, like I said, the true view image. This is zoomed in as best I can with the web browser here. But I definitely want to look at this a little bit further. The reason is I want to show you a couple. I got some Kennedy halves here, and I want to show you a couple things. First off, this isn't a contact mark from the reverse of a Kennedy half dollar. The rims and the high relief design of both sides, and the fact that those stars are even, and we'll just zoom out here. The fact that these stars are almost as low relief as the other design elements on the entire coin. For one of these stars in this area, even down here, let's say this one, to actually impact the cheek in a sideways motion, somehow glancing off the front cheek of this, the back part of the mouth, whatever. Even though this is a little bit of a raised area, I don't see that happening without seeing slide marks. And it's not going to happen straight on. So it's not a contact mark from another, or the reverse of another coin, even though it looks like a star. Counter stamp. If this was a counter stamp, it would look more sharp edged. And I don't agree with the counter stamp on this. Now, did someone make a counter stamp to try to imitate a star on the reverse? Absolutely, they could have. But would they have struck it right here and only did it partially? No. It doesn't. It smacks reason in the face to think that they wouldn't have made this look exactly like a star, almost as good as they could. The other thing is that someone mentioned maybe a die clash. It's not a die clash. That's too far inside. It would have been really out of line. I don't even think that could even happen without other clash marks being in the fields. We don't see any other evidence on this coin of anything else going on except for other contact marks. And every contact mark on this coin doesn't have the same appearance either. You have some reeded edge marks here on the coin. Let's see, you have some other little ticks. You have some little planchet wash stains. Just when you look at it, you just see your typical marks, your typical anomalies. Like right in here, it's just little things because this is just a business strike coin. And all of a sudden you come down here and you see this smooth looking impression on the coin. Now, to me, a contact mark, I'm not saying that it's not a contact mark. I'm going to say that until it's examined in hand, or PCGS takes it down, that this is kind of inconclusive. It's not worth going, it's worth going on a campaign to find out, though, because the person that owns the coin, either they're losing the value that they have in this coin, the grading fees and potential auction sale. But if it's not a drop star, then it needs to be took down. It needs to be fixed. So a decision needs to be made on this coin at this point. It's because it's in a PCGS holder with that label on it, as we've seen here. So my assessment is that this isn't from the star or the reverse of a Kennedy half dollar. Not as far as a contact mark's concerned. Not as a counter stamp's concerned. So maybe it's not a star. Maybe it just looks like a star. You know, I mean, is it possible that it's a contact mark from something else? You know, it's always possible, and look as close as possible. When this is the thing about mint errors, they're all unique. So even if you had 10 drop stars on 10 different Kennedy half dollars, each and every one of them are going to have a different texture or look or appearance, more than likely. It's going to depend on how compacted that star cavity was, the cavity with all the gook, what kind of gook it was, how long it was in there, you know, what angle, where did it strike the coin at, on and on and on. That's going to affect it. And looking at this, I'm trying to see if there's some type of striation, some type of anything. You can see some lines, but I mean, it's kind of inconclusive because it's hard to see why someone would create a star-looking punch and then hit this. Now, is it an oddball edge reading mark? Somehow it's rounded off because of the angle. It's always possible, I do have a bunch of examples I could show. This, it looks like it's raised and it's not. Okay, so let's take a look here. Now, we can take and copy this. Bear with me here. And move it over to the stars, and then we'll zoom in here. And it being a partial is kind of odd. Like, if somebody, whoops, okay. I mean, if somebody was going to do this, you would think, and I know these stars look a little weird. You got a lot of reflective issues here with these stars, but they do have rounded edges. I mean, they're rounded. It looks very similar. But it's hard to get a good picture of the stars here. But just kind of an example here, maybe this will help. But you got to understand this rim and this will get in the way of. I just don't see it being able to do it at this depth. That's what I'm saying as far as a contact mark. That's why I'm saying maybe it's just not a star. I mean, it looks like it. But if this is a contact mark, I don't think it's a star of another coin. It's something else if we're going to go with the contact mark. But when we look at it here, let's see, it's got the similar. I mean, this is the way the Kennedy half stars look. You can do an overlay here. And, it does, that matches that bottom part, and then they get kind of skinny. I've got some Kennedy halves we're going to take a look at here because I want you to look at the marks. Now, this is not to say I'm defending my stance or I have a stance at all, really. I mean, I based my video off of what PCGS said and didn't really give a good examination of the coin because I can't see it in hand. And it looked really good to me. It looked, definitely like a struck through. I know a lot of things have said people look for textures. You see all kinds of struck through coins. But drop letters, dropped design elements are a lot different. And this is an example. Kind of smooth, it just kind of has that smooth appearance. The star kind of has this smooth appearance. There's not enough of them out there to actually examine a bunch of them and say, yeah, that's what it is, that's what it's not, because they just don't happen that often. I mean, there's just not very many of them when you look up, on the drop letter side, you've got 19 over here that's sold at Heritage. So it's just kind of a rare thing, and it's not something that a lot of people don't have experience with. And just looking at images online all the time will not give you all the experience that you need because you're just looking at images. We really got to examine coins in hand. That's very important to say that. I'm going to say that over and over. So I'm going to also talk about this. I'm going to show you something here. So this is a skewer horizontal die press. And that means that the dies are horizontal and not vertical. You have the reverse die and you have the obverse die. So what happens is those dies are hitting like this. And I'm talking several coins a second. So if you had on the reverse a compacted star and it came out right in midair and somehow that planchets got in and it would hit the obverse. Almost like a suspended animation in a split second. I mean, it would have happened so fast. And it might be why it has the appearance that it has as well. It would have literally disintegrated upon impact after making the impression. Now, because it's just basically compacted particles, I just want to say, though, that, it can happen. It's potential. It has potential here. PCGS saw it in hand. Doesn't make them right. Doesn't mean they're going to be correct, as we already know, because I've already got documented examples of them making mistakes. I want to keep harping on that. That's not the point. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes. And if I put a video out saying that this was a breaking and a new mint error discovery, then I made a mistake if it's not. So I want to correct that. Also, I want you to look at a few Kennedy half dollars that I have to show you contact marks and different things. Just kind of put things in perspective here, because honestly, I would love for anyone who is experienced at this to chime in the comments. Possibly send me an email to coinhelpu@gmail.com if you've got some examples, or if you found an example. I'd love to see another example of a possible dropped star or dropped design element that looks similar to this, because it's important to gather information, gather research, and do this in an objective manner, not subjective. I don't want to do any emotions or anything like that, and because it's not about that, it's a coin. So here is an example of the cheek of a Kennedy $50, and I would love to see a coin like that in hand. Now you can see the reeded marks, the actual contact marks from the reeded edge of a coin. It's going to be very difficult to create a smooth star look with a reeded edge. Not saying it's impossible, but you can see that it looks incuse, it looks raised. It just depends on the angle, but this is an incuse and at an angle. And when you have something that is, one end is deeper than the other, then typically that was at an angle. That's what I'm thinking here. Now, this here is from the reeded edge of another coin on the edge. I've got several examples that I picked out for us to look at here. And this is just to kind of look at, a coin that has contact marks on that area to see what they look like. They look similar. Do the contact marks look like that? If a coin is struck with something that is kind of smooth, then it's going to look smooth on the coin. If it's rough, it's going to look rough. This one here, you can see metal movement. Something hit this and slid the metal. You're going to have metal slides with contact marks as well. The metal has to go somewhere. So I'm just showing these because I really, really, really want to have that coin out of the holder and unattributed if it's not a mint error. That's one of the things that I fight about all the time. Make sure that we have consistent coin grading, accurate coin grading, complete transparency and honesty in this hobby. There's another reeded edge contact mark. Now, the coin in question, and we will look at it one more time, easily could have been contacted with something else. But I'm just struggling with it being a counter stamp because of the fact that it would have looked better. It wouldn't have done such a bad job. I mean, to me, that's... So, some type of accidental contact mark, it would be interesting to know what it would be, because coins slide against each other all the time, hit each other all the time, but most contact marks on a coin are from other coins. That is a fact. Unless it's been in a parking lot or something like that, but most coins have not. Most coins come in rolls and bags and things like that, and through the mint, the planchets were mishandled, especially the business strikes. So most of your contact marks come from other coins. And you can see here, you can see the marks, contact marks, what they look like. And this is my perspective of it. This is what things look like to me. This is what I do. I see this stuff all the time. And when something stands out to me, and that star kind of stood out to me as different, still could be wrong. I can still be wrong. I'm at this point, I'm just going to be on the 50-50. So when we're looking at all of these, the contact marks just look, it just don't, what would it have been? When we're looking at this, what would it have been? What with a smooth edge would have struck this to make it look like this? Because it is either a contact mark or a struck through star. It's one of the two. It's not going to be anything else. That's the two things you can narrow this down to. And I guess looking at it in hand might help a little bit. So I'm not sure. It remains to be seen what's going to happen. But I would love to see this go to Mike Diamond or someone at Coneca, 3 independent experts who have experience in the field done this a long time, I like to see them look at this a little bit closer and make sure that, if it's not what it is, then I'm not going to do a video telling someone their coin's not what it is when it's in a PCGS holder already labeled. I've been through that road before, and, if it ends up being something and it sells for money, that's going to cost them money. If, some people come along and say it's not what it is, I've told you before, if it's not what PCGS said, then it needs to be took out of that holder. It shouldn't be sold, and it shouldn't be touted, and I would have to redact anything that I said in my other video. This is my clarification video. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.